All right, let's go ahead. This is for if you were gone yesterday when we went over how to do some statistics in Excel. If you click on the classwork in Google Classroom, so if I go to classwork and I go to this week, I can find 3.3 and 3.5 turn in. A lot of things here. These documents here are the assignments that we did in class. So you should have the standard deviation, all of those charts filled in. If you don't, finish it. Then we talked about the paper one where you had to carry out to 8 crazy decimals. And I talked about how on Friday we were going to go ahead and use Excel to help us calculate that. Then I have 2 different sheets. Google Sheets is Google's attempt at creating Excel. It's not as sophisticated, but it meets our needs perfectly. So we're going to go ahead and use it just to give you exposure to different means. The other thing that I have is the 3.3 T9 measurements. If you did your dial calipers measurements for the T9 Automoblocks vehicle, I need you to enter them all in here. If you did not finish all of them, then you are responsible for finishing up all your measurements by Friday. You have 3 days in class to work on your 20 ISOs, finish up your T9, do whatever you need. Once you have them all, enter them in on this form without any units, please. Okay, to do this, you are going to need the numbers that are here, and we are going to go ahead and open up. You should have, and when you click View Assignment, you should have your own copy here that says your name. I need you to open that up. For me, I'm going to open up the class example, and I want you to do that as well. Here, you're going to see a whole bunch of different sheets at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and add a new one so we can get it started. Now, if you look at sheet 3, this is the answers right here. Yes, you could copy and paste this, but you're going to learn absolutely nothing. So please use integrity and honesty and don't do that. But we are going to go ahead and get started on formatting, which means I'm giving you permission to copy all the stuff in navy blue and gold. I'm going to click the X, hold down Shift, click the last one, hit Control C or right click for copy, and I'm going to transfer it over to my blank copy. You're going to transfer it over to the one that says your name on it. All right, next up, I'm going to go ahead and grab all of these over here, doing the same thing. Click, Shift, click, Control C. That started, let's look at it. E3 was the cell that I'm going to paste it in. So E3, and there we go. I'm not going to put that last one yet. Okay, if I look at, I'm going to do a split screen here for a second. If I look at the paper version, I have all of these numbers that I'm going to type in for X. And what we're going to do is, if you can look at this standard deviation calculation business right here, this is what we are mimicking. We're creating this table where we find the X minus our means. Then we're going to square them all, and then we're going to add them up. That's what we're doing on this table. We're going to use these numbers up here. I'm just going to type them in exactly as they are. Oops. 3.1929. Okay, I've got my 10 numbers, and I'm going to guess that for some of you, there's one number here that bugs you more than others. That would be the one that ended in a 0. When we program it in, when we type it in, Sheets goes ahead and knocks off that last 0. But we can use this feature right here that it's the double 0 with the arrow pointing to the right. it allows us to increase the number of decimal places that are shown. In this case, we can add one more and it meets up nice and neat. Okay, so we've done all of this. Now I can go back in and I'm going to copy over that last cell that I didn't have because I know that it's going to go right there. Sorry. Okay, let's go ahead and define everything that we're finding. This value right here is mu. That is my mean or my average. N represents the number of data points that we have. When we find the sum of all those things squared and divide it by the number, that is giving us everything underneath the square root. Sigma, this is lowercase sigma. To find the standard deviation here, we're going to actually take the square root of everything. This is where Sheets turns into a supercomputer, a supercalculator for us because it does all the nitty-gritty calculations and remembers to hold on to all of the decimal place values. You're definitely going to get more accurate or precise measurements that way and very little room for rounding error. To calculate my mean or my mu, I am going to type in a function. Clicking into the cell F3, I'm going to activate my functions. This is the commands that's going to tell Excel or Sheets how to do everything. I'm going to start by typing in equals. Equals is a signal for the program that says, hey, I'm going to enter a formula or I'm going to do some math. And another word for mean would be average. I'm going to go ahead and start typing average, and you can see that it brings up a whole bunch of different options. We just want the straight up average. And then it adds this parentheses, and it's like, I'm hungry, feed me numbers. You're going to click, I'm going to click X. The very first one, I'm going to hold Shift and click the bottom so that I select the entire range of A's. Hit Enter, and that calculates my mean. This here for N, I could count them up. There's only 10 of them, but say I were to add some more, or say I had 1,000 different numbers. I don't want to count them all, so I'm actually going to command put equals count, parentheses, and then I'm going to click the first one, hold Shift, put parentheses, and everything. Well, I have the two main things that I need to be able to calculate the standard deviation. One thing I forgot to do is to go ahead and sort this from least to greatest. We can do that pretty easily by hand, but it's kind of a pain, so I'm going to have the computer do it for me. If I click A, I'm going to do data, and I'm going to go to sort range. These data have a header row. I want to make sure that I click that so it doesn't sort it. It's going to sort it by X, and it's going to go from least to greatest. Go ahead and hit sort. Now it's nice and neat for me in order, and you notice that it didn't change my mean, it didn't change the number, it just changed the order over here. All right, so let's go ahead and figure out how we can fill in this column. We're going to take my X values minus my mean. Let's start off with equals, and then I'm going to click this number, hit minus, and then click my mean and hit equals, and it does the math for me. Now you can do that from, spot to spot to spot, or the nice thing about Sheets or Excel is that when you click a cell and you click that blue little square and drag it down, it applies the formula for you. Except something went wrong here. If you look at the cell, it brings back up the formula that you typed up here in the f of x bar. This is saying that I took my x minus my mean. My mean never changes spots. It's always F3. My numbers that I'm subtracting from, however, do change. If I look at the second bar, see how it's calculating A3 minus F4? Well, if I look at F4, if I click it up here, see, that's the wrong number. I go through and I recalculate those. I'm just going to change all those F values back to 5 or F3. And it'll update everything for me, which is really nice, really slick. F3. Okay, Now I found my x minus mu's, or I've subtracted my mean from each of those data points. What I need to do is then take all of these numbers in the B column and I'm going to square them. I can do that by typing equals, clicking the first B, and then I'm going to access that caret up button, which is Shift 6, and typing in a 2. Hit enter, and there it is squared. Now, because this is actually the drag and drop option is going to work really nicely here because I'm only calculating with B values. I don't have another value that's not moving. So this is good. That's all of my values squared. To find the numerator, so we look back at this crazy standard deviation formula, to find the numerator that goes under my square root, I have to take all of these squared values and sum them up. That's what the sigma notation stands for. We're going to go ahead and hit equals, and I'm going to try out sum. Let's see if it's a command. And it is. And we'll click, hold shift, click the last one, close the parentheses to make it happy, and there we go. Oh, actually, there it is. Okay. The next step in our standard deviation calculations, once we find all these and add them up, we have to divide them by the number of data points that we have. I'm going to go ahead and hit equals, click my number, divide it by my in value, hit equals, and it does it for us. To do my final step in standard deviation, I need to take whatever this number was, my squared values over n, and I'm going to take the square root of that. There is a function for that. So equals SQRT, square root. Do that and click my value, hit enter. All that we did in this video right here was we used Excel to create our table. But Excel goes one more step, and it's a really beautiful thing. There's actually a standard deviation command in Excel. If I hit equals STDEV, and I'm doing standard deviation population, I highlight all my X values, you'll notice that everything that I just did in all of this chart to get to this point, I could have done in one command. As soon as you have this and everything matches, go ahead and submit your copy to me on Google Classroom.